What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Busy Sticks. Temperatures might be falling down outside, but at the Geekiverse, things are heating up as we're back at it. Super excited to be talking about video games. Summer vacation's over. We're back at it. We just recorded an episode of Built on Hope, which is our Andor review show from the Disney Plus Star Wars series. Go check that out. But from here on out, it's all about games. It's like an Xbox E3 press conference from 2016 on. We've got to talk about The Last of Us Part 1 in our review for that. An Iron Man game single player has been announced by EA Motive. We've got some hands-on time with the Steam Deck. Can't wait to share our impressions there. And we're also talking about the Modern Warfare 2 beta. I'm Josiah Leroy. With me today, one of my best friends on the planet, Mr. Disruptoid himself, John Fick. John, so good to be back here. It's fall. It's always beer season for us.
Oh, always.
But it's beer and video games, and we're talking about it. Good to be back.
It is. It's great, man. So it's almost like we got real busy over the summer personally, so we had to fall off a little bit. But I think a lot of that was like we weren't playing much, and there wasn't much coming out in terms of new shows and movies and stuff like that. So not only were we kind of on a hiatus, but the industries kind of were too. And that was almost like was like a natural progression of a gap in coverage there. But man, like you said, it's the fall. Games are coming out. We've been playing a lot. We're ready to get back into this, and I've missed it, dude. Like it's been tough not having this Wednesday, Thursday like on my calendar every week to hang out with you and chat about the stuff we love. So it's good to be back.
Yeah, lots to play, lots to discuss. We're watching Andor every week. We got She-Hulk going on, video games galore. We've got new systems. Man, it's as we said all the time, it's a good time to be a geek in the world of pop culture. We don't just love video games here at the Geekiverse. We love a lot of things, but one of those things is also beer. So this is a talk show where we incorporate video games and beer. It just goes hand in hand. John, what's about to be in your system? What do you got going on?
So you talk about the season, you talk about fall, you got to be talking about pumpkin beers, baby. I know it's not your cup of tea, but I love all things pumpkin. And I said while we were on Andor, I don't think there's much you can pair well more with an ale than some pumpkin flavoring. So it's my favorite time of year. This is my favorite pumpkin beer. It's Dogfish Head Pumpkin Ale. Got a lot of options over here in Western New York, being up in the Northeast. A lot of different fall type beers, a lot of different pumpkin kind of beers. This one takes the cake for me. Mostly because it's not too insanely pumpkin forward. Like it's not sweet at all. It's incredibly bitter. It's a very bitter ale. It's just got a little bit of a pumpkin like kick, almost more of a spice to it. I'm a big fan. I've obviously had it before, but not on this show, and that's the only rule.
Yeah, that's the only rule is right. And John, it also occurred to me, maybe another reason that seeped into our subconscious, or at least for me, for not recording over the last 2 months, has been this studio I record in.
Oh yeah,
is really hot during the summer.
Brutal.
Right now, I'm probably at a cozy 70, 75 degrees instead of the 110 that we had in the live stream we did in June. So, maybe that's a little bit of part of it as well.
Makes
but
sense.
For me, I've got something that I have not had before. Smutlabs Macho Mango IPA. I have no idea how this is going to be.
I saw this on the shelf. My wife and I, we were at a Fatty Beer Co. I think it was maybe a week or so ago, and I saw that on the shelf. It was very interesting. I didn't try it, but unless I did, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at your Untapped and see if I did try that or not. But yeah, interesting to say the least. Mango's always good.
Led to it, of course, because I thought it was a sour, but then I was like, wait, this is like a hazy IPA. We got some citrus there. We got some mango. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good color right there.
Beautiful.
John, cheers, my friend.
Cheers, brother.
Oh yeah, that's good. I'm into it.
Awesome.
I'm probably a 4 out of 5. So for me, that's like hey, I like it. I buy it again. I like to try new things, but that one I would circle back to relatively quickly.
Heck yeah.
So show and tell, because this is kind of the kickoff. We're back from summer. I think it's only fitting that we both brought an item for this very purpose, and it only makes sense that it's a pretty prominent thing for both of us. So, yeah, John, what do we got to show and tell here?
got the Steam Deck, baby. So we both got it in the house, man. The Steam Deck is here.
Yeah.
We've both had ours for a few months. Like we said, we haven't been recording, so we haven't got a chance to talk about it. You know what? The Steam Deck is always timely because there's always a list of a couple thousand people still waiting to get their email and still looking at Steam Deck coverage who don't have theirs yet. So this thing is, is as hard as it's been to get. Valve's done a good job with the rollouts just because like it's been paced out and they keep you informed and stuff like that. But we remember being on that list and not knowing when it was coming, and it's like, please let this week be my email. Monday and Thursday, 12:30 every week. We're just refreshing the inbox. We finally got them, baby.
Dude, what a system. That is a lesson to some of these other companies on how they rolled these out, because it was very limited but accessible. You put your $5 down, you had to have a Steam profile, you could get one, and they let you know when they were thinking it was going to come out. Like you said, you get the email, you got it, boom. There was no craziness like we saw with the PS5 or the Xbox Series X, where it was just, people buying them up to sell them. Now, they're still rolling these out. I would say stock is getting much better. You and I have been lucky enough to be in one of the first waves of this. Tim from the Geekiverse also got his about a few months ahead of us.
Right.
JT's waiting on his, but he was relatively late to the game too. My brother-in-law got on the pre-order list only like 2 months ago, and his is shipping.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yep. You can get them. And I mean, my gosh, right? I could be like playing a game right now and no one would ever know it. It is, John and I, as you may know, have been obsessed with handheld gaming. John is high on the list for just Vita Legends. He's the guy there. We both love our Nintendo Switches. We've got the OLEDs. This is my favorite handheld to date. Just saying.
Yeah, that's a tough statement for me to make, man, because I really do love the Switch. The Switch is like the only thing that's rivaled my fascination with like the launch of a console that's rivaled the Switch has been the Steam Deck so far. For very different reasons though. And again, you touched on it, man. Like I've always been fascinated with handheld gaming. Like growing up, the console was always downstairs and like we were only allowed to play it, X amount of time. So just like growing up, anytime I can think of like, how can I be playing games when I shouldn't be? That's kind of always been the goal. How can I play games when I shouldn't be able to? Whether it's, bringing it to school and playing on lunches or bringing it to work and playing on breaks, stuff like that. Like, how can I make gaming like as accessible as possible? Because I always want to be doing it, right? So handhelds have always been huge for me. And back to my last point where it's like nothing has been as fascinating, from the Switch as the Steam Deck has been. It's been for very different reasons. The Switch was so fun to just like play around with. Like, first of all, Breath of the Wild. Like I was obsessed. I love that game. One of my favorite games of all time. But also it's like my wife, who doesn't play video games, break off one of the Joy-Cons, hand it to her, and let's play some Mario Kart and let's experiment with this very new system that was like a different way to play games. So that first like month and a half, 2 months of the Switch was just so fascinating. The Steam Deck, man, I just had such a blast tinkering around with it. So I was all about, like, even before I had my Steam Deck, I was looking up videos on how to install all the emulators. I'm like, this thing's based on Linux. You can pop whatever you want on there. So like I spent days once I got mine just setting up like PlayStation 2, Game Boy Color, GameCube games. Like I went down such a rabbit hole, not even playing the games. I've obviously messed around, from here and there, but like just getting them set up and having fun and thinking about like what old games do I want to add to my library? How do I get this to work? Like it was just a fun piece of tech and it was a fun project for me. Not to mention the fact that I've been playing AAA games like Spider-Man on it and, and the Halo Infinite multiplayer and stuff. Like it's just such an incredible machine. It's so fascinating. Quickly becoming one of my favorite consoles of all time.
It is pretty impressive. It's outstanding. What a head start. I feel like it built on some of the better aspects of the Vita and the Switch. You've got incredibly high quality gaming in the palm of your hands. Very few setbacks, I would say, so far. I have had a few games that are unsupported that you can download patches for to play, and they crash frequently. Not a big deal. The other thing is the battery. The battery life is truly terrible depending on what game you're playing.
For sure.
Again, a small price to pay. This is Steam Deck 1, right? Like this is version 1 so far. So what does that next one look like? What do they look like as they improve over time? What a head start. And that's nitpicky for me. Like I it's hard to find anything to complain about with this.
When you bring up battery life, that's a great way to put it. It's a small price to pay because if you compare what this thing can do graphically to what a Nintendo Switch can do, like pull up a AAA third party game, like something I've done, I've tested on this. Like pull up Bioshock Infinite on the Nintendo Switch, and then pull Bioshock Infinite up on the Steam Deck. You're running the full like high quality version of Bioshock Infinite. It looks better on the Steam Deck than it did when it released on the Xbox 360. Like the textures and what this thing can do. I'm running games like God of War and Spider-Man PS4 at like medium to high settings that again look just as good, if not better, than they did on the PS4. Right? So like, sure, if you're doing that, battery's going to take a hit. You're going to get maybe 2 hours, but like at the same time, that's what I knew what I signed up for. Like that's the experience I'm looking for. I'm going to play a AAA game. I'm not going to be, playing it handheld for more than 2.5 hours. But again, battery life, if you're playing a smaller game, if you're playing like an old emulated PS2 game or like a smaller indie game, you can get 4 to 5 hours out of this thing.
I was playing Stray, which is not an incredibly taxing game. It's a brand new game. But I was able to do maybe 3.5 hours with that.
And I still think that is a
pretty
it's not a huge game, but there's a lot of lighting and a lot of 3D effects in that. Like that's no 2D indie game, right?
Yeah.
Like
it's no slouch for sure.
Right. Like I'd imagine like even newer games that are like less demanding, like if you pulled up like a Cuphead or like a Celeste, like a 2D, like, side scrolling game, I bet you get tons of time out of those.
So the system itself feels awesome. Like I know early reviews were saying, is this thing super heavy? Yeah, in relation to the Switch feels like a toy compared to this. But that's not been a concern for me. The buttons, the thumbsticks have been perfect. Everything feels good. Like I always talk about how much I love the Xbox One controller. Like to me, that's like my favorite. Until we got to the DualSense on the PS5. Like now that's my favorite controller. This rivals both of those for me in terms of how it feels, how it plays. Those are heavy thumbsticks. I think we talked about this. Like you want to play what you can on the Switch, but like shooters are not great for it. They're so small and they're a little bit flimsy, relatively speaking. These things are beasts.
Yeah, I'm playing Halo Infinite and like being, I can be as good on the Steam Deck as I am with like my full on Xbox controller. But you bring up comfort, man. I made this joke on Twitter a while ago when I first got it, but like this has to be the first time somebody has tried to make a handheld, and one of the first questions they ask themselves is, how does this feel in your hand? Because every other handheld out there is just a brick. There's no like the Steam Deck. If you look, it's contorted. It has shapes. It's in like just like a regular controller. It fits in your hand and it feels amazing. It gets heavy sometimes. Like yeah, sure. Like it's certainly heavier than the Switch or like an Vita or something like that. But I don't think it's too heavy. You don't notice it. By far, just the most comfortable handheld I've ever held.
And that screen is so big. Like I always play with that kind of like sitting on my lap. So I'm never like holding it, right? Like, I mean, the Switch you can kind of like play around with, but that is always just, it's fine. It's totally fine.
You learn how to use it. You bring up the screen. That's the one thing. It's like the screen's, it's good. It's great. There's no issues with the screen. The colors are fine. There's certainly nothing to complain about. But as somebody who does have an OLED Switch sitting around, man, when I fired that thing up for the first time after having the Steam Deck for a couple of weeks and, just letting my Switch basically collect dust, that OLED screen I do miss. I think we talked about like, when's the next time I'm going to use my Switch? Like, oh, I'm excited for Persona 5 Royal to come out on more platforms. I'll probably just get it on Steam Deck, I told myself. But then I'm like, man, if it runs well on Switch, those colors might look really, really good in the OLED. So I do wish it had an OLED to screen. But hey, it can't have everything, right?
That's for sure. But maybe the next one will. Like, there's no doubt in my mind, the production behind this is so awesome. Yeah, I did the same thing. I think I pulled up even just like Mario Odyssey. Daisy wanted to play that. I had it on the OLED, and that was pretty.
Colors are so beautiful, dude.
That's where you notice it. When you go from something not OLED to that, it's like, whoa, okay, got it.
Yeah, it's this thing has got me to the point where it's like I want to pick up those like Hori, trigger pad, whatever they are. There's like the Hori Split Pad Pro. That's what it's called. If you want to look it up, that's what it's called. It is basically like a beefier Joy-Con that does have bigger thumbsticks and grips. It's been out for a while, but like that's the only way I'm gonna go back and play my Switch is if I pick that thing up, because I don't want to. It's not comfortable compared to the Steam Deck, man.
I think for me now, the Switch will mostly, as it really always has been to a degree, it's going to be for exclusives. That's where I'm at, right? Zelda's going to be coming out. They're going to be doing new Mario at some point. Like all that's where I'm going to go. Past that, like the Steam Deck has made such an impact that I've there are games coming out this fall that I had earmarked for my PS5 that I'm like, should I get it for this
Dude,
instead?
I'm getting there too. Like, especially with games that have come out in the last, like, like what, 3 to 5 years that I've maybe like even 1 to 5 years that I've missed and that are in my backlog. It's like, I've always been thinking about, waiting to play that on a console, but should I just play the Resident Evil games on the Steam Deck? Should I play, I don't know, like random games in my backlog, like a Fallout New Vegas? Like my buddy Aaron just started replaying that. I'm like, I've always wanted to play that. I own it on Steam for whatever reason. Like, should I just fire it up? So like, it's just so approachable, and there's so much it can do. It's like I almost spend more time thinking about what I could be playing on it than actually playing on it, which is a problem in itself. But I'll take it.
Listen to us! Oh my gosh, PC gamers to the max. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I sent Josiah a message on Steam. We were both playing our Steam Deck. I'm like, look at us, PC gamers, baby.
We did it. We ascended to the next level. Pro tip, we got to mention it. My brother-in-law Tom told me about it, and of course I told my Geekiverse pals about it. Family sharing. So you can share your library with up to 4 other or 5 other.
I think 5 other people.
5 total.
All the people that have been using Steam for the last 20 years are just like rolling their eyes at us right now. They're like, yeah,
this is new to us.
I know, right?
We've been PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo people. So if you're like John and I, we cross over to the dark side here. You got to log. So like John and I, we want to share our library. I got to log on his. He's got to log on mine, or I could just give him my credentials, right? We do that. We're able to access each other's library. There's a few settings you just got to change. One person can play it at a time unless that second person is offline, as John discovered. Then both of us could play a game at the same time.
To be fair, the Xbox and PlayStation both do offer that as well in a very similar fashion, and both people can be playing the game at the same time. The one downside with that on the Xbox, the PlayStation specifically, that's one that I have more experience with, is that the person who owns the games is the one that's not in offline mode. So if you ever lose internet in your house, you cannot play your own games. That's the only issue. Again, not a real threat nowadays. Like, how often would that happen? Like, but if you were traveling or something like that, friend of the show, Kyle Kalinske, him and I had that set up for the PS4 for a little while. I think he bought like Fallen Order and I bought like Horizon or something like that. And we were sharing games that way, and we were both playing them at the same time. Like, it worked great. There was never an issue. But so there's a lot of options out there. But Steam is the Steam way is pretty cool too. It's been nice, especially having somebody like Tim Talbot, member of the Geekiverse, who's had a pretty long history with Steam, hop on our family share, and all of a sudden our library goes from like 40 to 215 or whatever it is. That's been nice.
Yeah, it's been pretty awesome. Like, I mean, I was playing Stray. Kyle bought that, and he wanted to play, basically. So a notification came up and said the owner of this game is trying to play it. So great, I sign out right at that point. Kyle gets to play it. But what a nice thing, So John, Tim, Kyle, and I have started this group essentially where we do that. And I'm always thinking, I'm like, hey, should I buy this game for the group? Here you go, guys. Cool. I am excited to see what that looks like in the holiday season here with all the deals that'll be coming up. And of course, there's always Steam sales, right? Like they're incredible.
Yeah.
John and I get to witness this firsthand now.
No doubt. And again, I've always had a PC and like I've tinkered around. I have a bunch of random games from like the early 2010s. That's when I like bought a gaming laptop and thought maybe I'll like hop into the Steam world. That's why I've got like the first couple of Fallout games. I've got like the Portal games, like Half-Life, all of like the PC classics that were still like kind of relevant. I was buying back then. That's why I have those in my library. But since then, I have not really touched Steam. But I'm excited to, man. Like we talk about the difference, in use cases with something like the Switch. You say the Switch has kind of always been a first party machine for you. For me, my Switch has been an indie machine. Like I'm playing my Cupheads and my Celeste and in my Limbos, Inside, stuff like that. Those are the games that I just love playing handheld. And now it's tough not to look at that at the Steam Deck and grab them there just because of the price probably alone. Like it's gonna be cheaper eventually on the Steam.
The price point, you put it on your wish list, it gives you a notification when it goes on sale. That's always beautiful.
Performance, obviously, you can't overlook. Like a lot of those indie games run great on the Switch. Again, I'm gonna do some comparisons, but when Persona comes out, I'm really gonna have a hard time thinking like, do I want the version that's going to inevitably run better, or do I want the pretty colors from my OLED? So it's just gonna be, it's a problem I don't mind having.
And as you all may know, I love my trophies and achievements. So Steam achievements for me, I'm like, yep, let's go hunting. It's a good time to kind of check them off the list. And what better way to do it than on a handheld? You do it a few times a week, or you got little ones running around, you get to play for a half hour. That's the way to do it. Or hey, you got a mature game that you don't want your kid to see, now you can do it. Like this is a beautiful way to do it. Steam Deck, definitely recommend. Get a pre-order, and if you have not, you can get the cheapest version, $3.99. It comes with a really, really nice case, which is a great value, pretty solid.
Yeah, and Valve has just been so like incredibly accessible like with this process. You can buy the cheapest version. I got the middle version, but you can buy the cheapest version for $3.99, and you can run games off an SD card. In videos videos I've seen, they run just as well, if not sometimes faster, off the SD card than they do on the internal drive. So like that easy expandable storage. Also the fact that Valve designed this thing to be actually fixable, which is unheard of in 2022 when it comes to consumer electronics. Like they partnered with iFixit, which is a very popular like tech repair company, and they're like, here's the schematics. Like you can sell replacement triggers, they're first party. Like whatever people need, go to that website and just buy the parts from. Do it yourself. Like it's so cool.
Yeah, kudos to them. It's been really, really awesome throughout, and we're just getting started, right? We're starting to see PlayStation and Xbox be more accessible. You can find them on shelves now. Inventory for this has been ramping up too. So get your hands on one. Can't recommend it enough. John and I, so typically we talk about what's in your system. I know we kind of dove into that a little bit. We mentioned some games we're playing there. For me, I want to say I got the Steam Deck, and I wanted to play some of my favorite all-time games first, just to say this was my first experience. So what do I love? I love Batman Arkham. I was playing Batman Arkham City, rotating between that and Jedi Fallen Order. Could not believe I was playing Jedi Fallen Order and how beautiful it looked and how well it was running. I was messing with all the visual settings. That is outstanding. So I dabbled in a little bit of both of those. Recently finished Arkham Knight for the first time since it came out in 2015, because I wanted to finish that before getting into Gotham Knights in about a month from today, actually. Even though they're not connected, it just kind of was something that I always wanted to circle back to. But I've got a few other things that I've been playing. John, what's been in your system lately?
It's been a while since we've recorded one of these, so you got to think back, and 4 months ago, what have I played? But just to kind of stick around with the Steam Deck, the first thing I played on my Steam Deck was a game called Neon White. That is short list for my game of the year, man. Neon White was such a fun experience. I'm glad I experienced it on new hardware, so I had that I had that motivation to keep playing and trying out my new hardware, because I'm glad I stuck with it, because that game was awesome. I forget the name of the developer or the guy behind it, but it's a small, if not one-person studio, and the last game they made was Donut County. So if you're familiar with that, it was literally an iOS and very, very small game, which was an adorable game. It was one of the first Apple Arcade games. I had such a fun time with Donut County. Very, very small game. This is like a full-on, you could have told me it was a AAA game. Like it's 3D. So in Neon White, you're basically like a guy who died, and right now to avoid going to hell, you have to kill a bunch of demons as fast as possible. So every level is basically like platforming, but you're killing these demons to get through the 3D platforming. And they build it into the narrative that you have to do it as fast as possible to win this competition. So it's also a speedrunning game. So you're competing against yourself for clearing these levels, killing these demons in the fastest time possible. The game does such a good job at making you feel like a badass. Like they just set the demons up and give you the power ups at the right point to just make you feel like boom, 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 boom. Oh my god, I'm so good at this. Like it's one of the most satisfying games I've played in a very long time, gameplay wise. And what I didn't expect, there's a full on visual novel style story in between all the stuff. Like it's like a well thought out narrative. Neon White's awesome. Like Joe, I think like you're not it's on like the anime spectrum of like the storytelling and the visuals and stuff like that, and so maybe even some of the themes too. But the gameplay and the overall narrative, I think you'd still have a really good time with. I think that Neon White would be one that you get down with. That's a fun game.
It's a game I definitely need to play. I know Tim loved it as well, but I want to play that if for no other reason to talk about it in our game of the year conversation that we'll have in a few months, right? Like it's in there for both you and Tim, and everything I've seen on it is beautiful. So that's certainly something I want to circle back to. And for what it's worth, this fall is not, it's not release heavy for games I would pick up. Like I want to get Gotham Knights. God of War obviously is huge for me. That's it. Maybe Callisto Protocol, which Tim said he's going to buy. So probably for Steam Deck, it's going to be great. But that being said, this is a game I'll probably find some time to play before the end of the year when we have that discussion.
Yeah, it's not incredibly long. I think it's maybe around 10 to 12 hours if you kind of just go through. It inspires you to replay levels a few times. Like if you're sadistic like Tim, and sometimes I can be when it comes to speed running, like it's probably going to take you a super long time because you're going to want to get platinum on every one. I didn't do that. I basically told myself, all right, if you get gold, progress. And it was because the story was so good. I just wanted to keep playing the game. And like in my head, I said, oh, I'll go back and get the platinum every level. I haven't gone back, but whatever. It's been a ball. Been playing a lot of Spider-Man on my Steam Deck. That has been like my pick up and play. I'm outside, I'm grilling, making dinner for me and my wife. Like I bring the Steam Deck out there, and in between flipping burgers or steaks, I'm just swinging around New York City doing a couple of crimes and chipping away at that story. So that's been awesome. This past weekend, a big one. So the Modern Warfare 2 beta was out. So for PlayStation players, the Modern Warfare 2 beta just dropped. I think it wrapped up Tuesday, so it's closed now until next weekend. But that was fun. That I didn't expect to be as excited for a Call of Duty game as I am right now. It every year I inevitably pick it up. Like we talked off air. Like you grab NHL every year, even though you're maybe on the fence or you're not in the mood for it. You just end up caving because it's like it's comfort food. You're gonna grab NHL, of course you are. That's been me with Call of Duty since forever. I haven't missed a Call of Duty in forever. In this time I'm actually pumped for it. I played the beta and it's slowed down a lot. It's a much heavier game. It's a slower game. It feels a lot like a Black Ops 2. That's kind of like my touchstone for it. I know it's Infinity Ward. I know it's a Modern Warfare game. It's not, it's not the same developer as a Black Ops 2, but it feels a lot like a Black Ops 2, where it's a heavier game. They took out things like slide canceling, where you can't like slide and start shooting immediately after. They added the dolphin dive back if you hold down too long. Like they've intentionally made it a little bit slower, and I think that was needed for multiplayer. I'm not a big Warzone guy. Warzone 2, that was not part of the beta, but they did let a bunch of like influencers and streamers, they invited them out for a whole weekend and they got to play that. So there's a lot of Warzone 2 impressions and streams and stuff like that out there. I'm never going to talk much about that because I didn't get much into Warzone, but I am excited for Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer. I liked what I played of it.
That, the Modern Warfare remake a few years back, 2019, I love that game. Played my fair share. I'm really encouraged to hear you say that it reminds you of Black Ops 2, because that was maybe my favorite Call of Duty multiplayer. I sunk hundreds and hundreds of hours into that.
Yeah, I was always more of a Modern Warfare 1 and 2 guy than a Black Ops guy, but with how fast the games have gotten, and we've literally gone to space in Call of Duty. Like we've gotten so fast. We've had laser guns. We've got people running around with pink and purple guns doing 360 no scopes. Like that's been what Call of Duty has, felt like for a while. So to boot this up and like, I don't know, just start sprinting and just feel the weight of the character and try to jump and not jump that high and slide, and you're not sliding all the way across the map. It's like, oh, I feel like a human. I feel like I feel like I have a gun in my hands and like I've got ammo on me. Like I feel like a soldier. Not that I have a real life fantasy to feel that way, but that's the kind of game we're going for here. So like it's nice to kind of it's refreshing to have a game that is a little more authentic to what it used to be. I'm excited to see more about it. I think there was 3 or 4 maps that were all pretty fun. That's also a big thing. I feel like maps in Call of Duty have gotten so overly complicated. Like every room has 3 entrances, and like every map is just a spider web of places people could go. I didn't feel that this game. This beta I played, I didn't always feel like I had to look everywhere. Like, okay, there's 2 doorways. I'm good. I know where I'm going. If I see somebody, I can shoot them first. I'm not always going to get shot from behind because somebody is just running all over the place. So, positive things to say.
I'm encouraged to hear it. Yep. Yeah, as always, Call of Duty sells well, but from a playing standpoint, I'm happy to hear that is going well. I'll probably dabble in that when that arrives, just a few short months. For me, also been playing, just started it finally, but it was just so fitting the time of year, and I always try to gear a game towards Halloween. So like last year it was Alan Wake for me, which I love dearly. This one, it's a new experience. It's Resident Evil Village. So just started that on PS5. I'm about an hour and a few minutes in. Having played Resident Evil 7 earlier this year, I gotta say, I love that it continues that story. Wow, what a 180. It gets away from some of the elements of, let's say, a Resident Evil 7, but it totally feels like it's in that universe. and I got to say they've done a good job with it, kind of going off the beaten path from zombies to lichens a little bit. There's going to be, I can't wait to dive into this story. There's so many awesome characters that you've seen online. Lady Dimitrescu has been, I could not wait to run into her. Got into her probably just a few minutes ago in my playthrough. And I know some of my friends who are going to be watching this or listening to this podcast on replay are big Resident Evil fans, and Rob and Ashley. So really excited to really dive into that. There's another game that I just finished that I feel like we should really get into and put our review behind, because it's a game that's near and dear for both of us. And that would happen to be The Last of Us Part 1 on PS5. Oh, beautiful. Look at that edition right there. We got the Firefly edition from John, if you're watching. It's just so pretty. So, John, you bought this twice, right?
Josiah, I can't even play this game. This comes with the game in a beautiful steelbook, one of my favorite steelbooks. It's incredible. It comes with a little thing called a disc. I don't have a disc drive in my PS5. I can't play this. I just bought it anyways. Such a sucker for The Last of Us, man. I bought the game digitally and played it at midnight when it came out, and then that also at midnight, the Firefly edition went up, and I bought it. I don't know why. Just because I love The Last of Us so much. There's also some really cool comics in here. They're the comics that, if you followed The Last of Us, they're the American Dream, I believe is the name of the series. They're just alternate covers. I had to get that too.
It's funny to say, like, when this was announced not all that long ago, it was like, all right, what's this going to look like? We're redoing this. Before it was rumored to be Last of Us Part 1. It was rumored to be an Uncharted rebuild. We didn't get that. We got Last of Us, even though this game just came out 8 years ago. We got the PS3 version. Crazy to say that this is a PS3 game, by the way. We got the PS4 remake or upport, I guess, just a year or two later when that came out. And here we are getting this, which was more of a ground up remake. But man, it holds up beautifully. The story feels just as special as when I played it the first few times. It's a rare game that I feel like I will just continue to buy forever. Every time it's on a new PlayStation, or hey, it's coming to Steam Deck at some point, or Steam, I should say.
It is.
We're gonna buy it again. I know we will. And this, I gotta say, I'm really proud of. It's the first time I've platinumed it, because this was the easiest platinum list for a Last of Us game to date. But once I saw that there was nothing involved with anything online in terms of connection for it, I was like, I can do this. Or difficulty. That's another big one for me. I did that. So I platinumed this. This is my 13th platinum. I think second one this year. And I just had a special time with it. I really did. Like, I really love going through the story every time I play it. I can't set it down. It feels amazing with the DualSense. Like, they really incorporate some beautiful stuff there. It looks better than ever. It sounds better than ever. It's a game where you want to really take your time and just look around and kind of smell the roses, if you will. But it feels good. It looks good. All of the above. Checks off all the lists that or everything from the wish list I feel like most fans would want. Now, it's a $70 game. I could see the argument for why this should be a $50 game. I went ahead and I paid $70 again. That's something you got to decide.
For sure. But
I don't feel shortchanged, I got to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat, man. You said it well. This is the most impactful playthrough I've had since the first time, for sure. I've probably played through The Last of Us at this point 5 to 6 times. I've played it I played it originally PS3 version. Just a year later, the PS4 port came out. That just added 60 frames per second. That wasn't a remaster. It was literally just adding 60 frames. Played it then, and then maybe 3 or 4 more times to get ready for like The Last of Us Part 2. And I did like a speed run with a buddy. It is the visuals alone, like you said, they're just enough to make you stop and enjoy the environments a little bit longer and look a little bit more, because like the game is just so beautiful. This game looks better than The Last of Us Part 2, and it makes sense. It came out after. It's a native PS5 game, but it's crazy to say, like, the fact that Naughty Dog can still get more juice out of this engine and out of these characters and stuff like that. If you're not really familiar with what this game is, it's not a port. It is not an upscale. They completely remade character models. Like Joel and Ellie in this game look different. Like, they remade them. All the performances are the same, especially characters like Tess. Henry and Sam, they look like pretty different than their original PS3 and PS4 counterparts. Like they put some good work into making this make the most sense in the best graphic style they could. Lighting just absolutely stupid good. Like just constantly looking up and like watching the light come through trees. Probably spent like 3 or 4 extra hours in this game just standing around looking at stuff because it's so pretty. You like you said, man, that $70 price tag, it's tough. That's the company that Sony is. They're not gonna make a game with the logo of their premier AAA studio on it and not charge $70. And again, that's on you to decide. I get where you could be coming from if you're upset about that. It's a game that we've played multiple times and it's been on multiple consoles, and this is technically the third SKU of it, so I understand that. But it's especially if you've never played The Last of Us, man, you're in for a treat. Like, what a way to experience this game.
This is to me the definitive version of the game.
Easily.
Even having played it, the prior 2 times, it's so funny. Like this didn't really resonate with me when I played it originally on PS3. I remember getting it day one, super excited about it, and I liked it and nothing more. Replayed it in 2019 or 2020 in the lead up to Last of Us Part 2 on PS4. And that's when it really sunk its claws into me and I understood. I feel like I understood. Like it really just, I loved it. I loved everything that they were trying to tell me with this game. And this time just cemented it. And I really had a good time going back and trophy hunting. And it's set up beautifully. Like I wish Guardians of the Galaxy did this. You can go through chapters, you can go through specific encounters, even if you want. And the game always keeps your main save. So when you load up a chapter and you reload your main save, all the stats carry over. So it's a beautiful way to say, oh, I upgraded every weapon, or I shivved every door, I got every comic, all of it. And in going through the 4 or 5 hours maybe extra between that and Left Behind, by the way, the DLC is included in this and rebuilt. In going through that, it like forced me to slow down and really enjoy it even more, because I had to be purposeful, right? I'm looking at my phone, or the PlayStation Plus hints are beautiful for this. You pull it up and it shows you where to go if you get stuck, if you're looking for something special. I can't speak enough to it. It's a really, really quality release. And I hope we continue to get more releases like it and remasters of these games that were outstanding over the last 10, 12 years.
For sure. Yeah. I know a lot of people, even when this was first announced, they're like, oh my God, The Last of Us just came out a few years ago. We got a port already. Like, why are we doing this? I understand where you're coming from, but especially in a case like this game didn't start off being created by Naughty Dog. This was like a pet project by another studio trying to make a name for themselves, and all of a sudden Naughty Dog takes it over and they kind of just put the finishing touches on it. So it's not like it really took away from them developing the next game, in my opinion, and from what we've seen. But like, I'm all for, give me the games that I love and make them better. I don't care. I don't need you to not. I'm not a stickler for that, like so many people seem to be. I want to play my favorite games in the best way I possibly can.
I'll keep supporting those developers all day by rebuying that game, and that's the beauty of it, right? If you don't like it, you really don't have to buy it.
Yeah.
There's plenty. There's never been more options for gamers. And at any point in history, there's so much to play. I mean, my goodness, like we said, our shared library is like 224 Steam games. You'll never be able to get to it all. There's so much to get to. So just don't buy it. It's fine.
For sure. Play the old version. It still exists. It's on PS Plus for free.
And it's also great. So go ahead and do that. And anything that we missed on Last of Us that you wanted to mention?
I'm sure there's plenty we missed. The Last of Us holds such a special place in my heart, man. It's like, well, it might be The Last of Us in part 2. I just kind of put them together now. That's my favorite series. That's my favorite game of all time, The Last of Us. So, I've always been excited for this. I bought it. I can't play this. I can't. I have nowhere to put it. It's just gonna sit on a shelf.
It's great. It's fine. You don't do this all the time, right? Like,
no, I've never spent $180 on a video game.
I think the most I ever spent is probably 80 on one of those like collector's editions for various things. I've never gone ham, even for Star Wars.
Think about the fact that I bought The Last of Us on PS3 when it came out for $60. I bought it again on PS4 for $60. I bought the digital version for $70 and this version for $100. I've spent so much money on this game. Oh.
Well worth it, my friend. Well worth it. Spread it out over 8 years. It's okay.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
you said, you got friends who like cars. You like video games. It's okay.
Quite the investment. I'll take it.
In other news, before we get to kind of what's going to be a new segment here on Busy Sticks, again, thanks for tuning in at twitch.tv/thegeekiverse. It was almost under the radar, as much as an under the radar thing it could be. We're getting an Iron Man game.
I mean, talk about, yeah, it was very under the radar. It popped up on Instagram is the first time I saw it.
It was bizarre, right? But not that there's a lot of news on it. So from Game Informer, Electronic Arts Motive Studio today announced it is currently developing an Iron Man game in collaboration with Marvel Games. The as of yet untitled game is a single-player, third-person action title starring everyone's favorite genius billionaire playboy philanthropist Tony Stark. Electronic Arts heralds this game as the first of several new games developed in a new collaboration with Marvel. So, on the surface, it sounds really awesome, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's all we got.
That's all we know. It's happening.
We'll have to see, but third person, single player. Hey, maybe we're learning our lesson here. People like these games, right? Avengers was fine, but it kind of failed because it tried to be too much.
Right.
Guardians of the Galaxy, a single player game. Awesome. We're going to get that with Iron Man now. And we're getting other stuff in terms of Marvel. We're starting to pump out all these projects that are going to be over the next few years. But John, Iron Man, this sounds good on the surface, right?
It does. It's awesome. It's what we've wanted to see from Marvel. They're in the kind of what they said they were going to do. They're done kind of trying to develop their own games or do these movie tie-ins. Very much to the path that Star Wars is going down, and obviously both Disney, so it makes sense, right? Same strategies here. Take these characters and give them to studios who are going to put the work in, and just spread it out like you did the MCU. Give us all these different fun stories. I'm so on board, man. A new story we did miss, but we've known that Amy Hennig and Skydance have been working on a game for a little while. That's been announced. We finally know that's going to be a Captain America World War II game that's going to feature Black Panther. Awesome. Like, give me all these Marvel projects, man. Not to mention the fact that Insomniac is still working on Spider-Man 2, which is going to have Miles Morales in it as well. Double Spider-Man action there, plus Wolverine that they're working on. So, like, it very much does feel like the MCU in a different way, where obviously the MCU is this connective tissue, and like we're excited for all these projects, on their own right, but we just can't wait to see where they're going to lead up to. I just can't wait to see what these games just are going to look like individually, and how they can really nail these characters. I feel like Iron Man's a tough one to mess up when it comes to like how fun can that game be. Like, he flies, he shoots rockets, he's a superhero, like he's got all the gadgets in the world. You better nail this. It's a softball in terms of gameplay. And with the groundwork that the Robert Downey Jr. MCU Iron Man has built for us in terms of what we know this character can be, copy and paste it. You can find your RDJ, give it a little bit of a spin, do kind of what Guardians did for those characters, like be true to the core of what we got in the movies, but like give a little spin on it, right? Like, that's all we need.
Give me Nolan North. All of it. It's funny, like we talked about this with Guardians. It can be tough to separate the established MCU versions of those characters. But if you do it right, which I think they did when we were talking about last year's Guardians of the Galaxy, where they're their own distinct characters who have some similarities, but really they're unique.
Right.
If you do it right, it's okay. And it can be copy and paste, or it can be very similar, or it can be totally different. As long as it's good, it's good. And I'm just really excited for this. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see where it goes. We probably don't get this game for at least 3 years.
Oh yeah, minimum. Yeah,
that's fine, right? There's a lot in the pipeline, as we just said. There's a lot to hold us over.
Yeah, it's just so interesting how video games are, like, how it used to be so secretive, and how different companies are handling it so differently now. You think of like another big news story that we didn't have in our docket here, but we might as well bring it up. GTA 6 just leaked. Like, there's 90 something videos of GTA 6 development gameplay that you can just go see because of a very shitty person broke into a system and released information before it should have been. But there's so much discourse out there about like, oh, the surprise is ruined. Like, I just wanted it to be like a big reveal, and I get that. I'm a sucker for the big events too. But how sustainable is that, and what really is the point when you think about it, right? Like, you look at something like like the MCU or Marvel or whatever, like any big movie, those things are road mapped out forever. Like we know movies that are coming out years and years and years from now, right? Like I think eventually video games we might have to let go of this like surprise us and get us the game within the next 2 years situation. And obviously developers might be starting to agree. I mean, they just dropped an Iron Man game, official Iron Man game with one of the largest development studios in the world working on it. They just dropped it via Twitter, man. They just put out a press release. I don't know.
So I think there's something to be said for that. Like, to me, I feel like if you're stuck in the middle, that's where you run into issues. So we got so last year, again, case in point, Guardians of the Galaxy was mentioned at what was considered to be E3, and then it came out in the fall.
Right.
Like, beautiful. We had no idea that was happening before then. I mean, there's certain games like Beyond Good and Evil 2, right, that just seem to get in development hell. Or there's certain games where you're like, we want to tell you about this so bad, even though we have nothing but a logo. Or in like the Captain America, we don't even have a title for that game, but they're still talking about it. I feel like that's fine because we just assume it's so far out. But when you get in the middle, that's where you struggle because there's an expectation. Maybe it is 2 years. We haven't heard anything. We haven't seen anything. What's going on? This game is in trouble. It comes out in year 3 or 4. And then it has this awkward uphill battle PR-wise.
And even if the game is good, so you're right. Like it's not a situation that I'd want to be in. I don't want to be a PR guy for any of these companies because, like, you know, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. But think of like a Deathloop, dude. How many times did we see Deathloop at E3, at PlayStation Showcase, and we're just like, okay, I know you're making Deathloop. Give us whatever. I don't need to see it anymore. I know it exists.
Dude.
And it was awesome. Like, we loved
2 weeks
Deathloop.
before it came out. 2 weeks before it came out, there was a state of play, and they still showed a new trailer
for Deathloop.
I was like, are you serious?
Like, shut up about this game. So again, like, you know, damned if you do, damned if you don't. But again, that game was sick. We both loved Deathloop, I think, right? You like that? Like, the game was awesome. So like, yeah, it's tough. Like, PR marketing, very difficult, but like, I don't know. The days of expecting everything to be a big surprise might have to be over with like how many hands are on these projects and how accessible this data is and how much leverage somebody has when they know that's a big deal, right? Like if this stuff isn't a big deal, nobody's going to try to hack and get into your stuff and make a big stink out of it. So I don't know. I certainly don't have the answer and I can't predict the future, but it's very interesting.
At the end of the day too, like you think about a game like a GTA 6. Obviously, we know that's coming at some point, regardless of when they decide to announce it. It's too big of a sequel not to hit. Like, so for me, I've watched none of the videos or coverage that have leaked on this. So essentially, I'm in the same spot I was before it all leaked, right? Like, I know that game is coming. They'll talk about it when they're ready. It doesn't affect me. Like, it's not. It's what was different to me. If we're talking about leaks, is I think of The Last of Us Part 2. That was a brutal one, not the announcement or existence of the game, but
the
what
narrative
happened
leaks,
in
the
the
story
game.
leaks. Yes.
That's a problem. That's different. That can be hard to avoid. I avoided it successfully, but like, think about pouring your heart into a project, whether you're a lead or you're a part of the team, and you do it for 6 years. What maybe it's less, maybe it's even more in some cases, and that gets out before you want it to. That can be really devastating. So this is always going to exist. There's always going to be terrible people who are doing things like this just to make a name and try to blackmail companies into it. It's just silly. Just cut it out. Like, don't ruin the fun for the rest of us. There's not a lot to gain. So lots of good stories happening here. I know video game season, I always say season in the fall, it's really ramping up. So we're going to have a lot of news to cover, a lot of games to play and talk about on Busy Sticks. But before we go today, we're going to actually wrap up with a new segment that is right up our alley. John and I love playing games like this. If you're into anything Star Wars or Marvel, you got to check out our TikTok. But this is going to be a little bit longer version of that. John, I'm going to pass it over to you to introduce, talk about the rules, all of it.
Yeah, we're gonna. It's simple. We're playing guess the video game. So I've got a video game in mind, and I'm gonna give Josiah 10 questions, 10 yes or no questions, and we're gonna see if he can get it. This is the beta. We're gonna see is 10 questions too much? Is it too few? We're about to find out. You mentioned we've done this on TikTok before. TikTok short form. We're doing 30 seconds, like rapid fire as many questions as possible in 30 seconds. We've done that with Star Wars characters. We've done that with MCU. We've actually never done gaming with it. So I'm excited to bring that to this show in a little bit longer form and have some fun I just love, who doesn't love trivia? I love asking trivia. I love being asked, and I love listening to people try to guess trivia. What I'm going to do is put the answer on the screen. So Joe, you have to close the stream. Do you have the stream open?
Yep. Hang on.
Close the stream. No cheating. I'll know if you're cheating. I will know. You know what? I can see the list of viewers. So hold on. I'm gonna verify that you don't have this open.
I have the chat pulled up. You want me to get rid of that too?
No, you can have. Well, then I can't verify that you're not actually cheating. But you can get rid of. Yeah, you can keep the chat if you really want to. If
I just got out of the chat.
Okay, perfect.
So I was gonna say, verify that I'm cheating. Why don't we talk about our our new Gunray TikTok
Let's see, where are we going with this one?
from Minky Boodle Day?
Yeah, that was funny. That was really funny. That was a good one.
All right, I digress.
Okay, so I've got. Oh, that's a way bigger than it needs to be. Whoopsies. We'll just put that right here. So again, this is in beta. If it's more fun for listeners and viewers, when you guys don't know the answer, let me know. Maybe I won't show the answer on the screen. I think it might be more fun to see if Josiah's heading in the right direction. So that's
and I won't be able to do this for you, is the thing.
Okay, that's fine. That's also true. That's also
let's
true.
Try,
so,
let's
so,
try it.
So we'll see how it works.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, we could always put it in post before we post it on YouTube. At least we could always.
Oh yeah, that's very true.
So we could easily do that. But I've got the game ready. It's in mind. You've got 10 questions, yes or no only. So whenever you're ready.
Okay. Did this game release after 2010?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Is this game exclusive to either PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo?
No, it is not.
Okay. Is this predominantly a single player game?
Yes,
I know that could be gray area.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I'll have to narrow down, man.
I was going to actually just start and just like pick a random game and see if I could just blow it out of the water, but
right.
Didn't go that direction.
Yeah,
obviously.
you can take a random guess whenever you want. That will count as a question.
For sure. Okay, so after 2010, not exclusive to one of the three main consoles, single player. Let's see. Is this a science fiction game?
Science fiction. Ooh, that's up in the air. That is.
Might be as problematic for you as it is for me.
I'm gonna say no. I'll pretty confidently say no on that one. But
okay.
We can certainly discuss it after the fact if you disagree.
Okay. All right, try to narrow down the window a little bit more. I'm gonna figure out a groove with this. I think.
Yeah, you're at 4 questions, so you have 6 left.
Did this game release during what we would consider the PS5 and Xbox Series X generation?
No.
Okay. So prior to 2020, so I've got a little bit of a window there. Is this a shooter?
I'm gonna say no. No, it's not a shooter.
Okay. And not sci-fi. All right. Where are we going with this?
We're gonna discuss that. We're gonna discuss that one,
okay.
I guess. But
so I won't hang up on that.
So it's on. I guess you can call it on the border there.
On the border. He's trying to tell me it's Borderlands. Got it.
It's
not a shooter. Did this IP exist before it was a video game? So, for example,
That's a great question. I know what you're going with. Yeah, for sure. Like, Star Wars or anything, right? Like, yeah.
right? Like, yep. Okay.
No, it did not. No, it did not. This
Okay. So basically, video game. Okay.
video game IP. Yep.
Okay.
So it is after when did you say?
After 2010, prior to 2020, or at least the Xbox Series X and PS5 debut.
Right. It's not an exclusive title. Huh.
I was going in a direction, and that's not going to help me. Okay. Let's see. So, I don't know where to go with this. I got to figure out a better flow.
Yeah, it's a tough one. There's just so many. I mean, like, we have fun with the Star Wars and the Marvel, but like there's so many video games, so it's gonna be.
I know there's so many.
It's gonna be hard to get these, but it's fun.
To your knowledge, is this a game I've played?
Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Game I've played. Trying to get in John's head a little bit here.
Got 2 left. 2 left plus a guess.
Okay.
Once you've exhausted your 10 questions, you are allowed a final guess of what the game is.
Okay. So I'm going to use those up for sure. Let's see. What else can I ask? Does the game star a female protagonist?
No.
Okay. Is the game open world?
No, it's not. No. No, it's not. It's not. No.
Okay.
Again, this is yes or no. There's open elements. There's open elements, but yeah.
Okay.
But it's certainly not an open world game.
But okay. There's gray area to some of the questions I asked, obviously.
As there are with all games.
Yes. So this is my guess, right?
You have exhausted your 10 questions at this point. Do we want 5 more? Do we want to do a 15?
I don't know that it's going to help me.
Of course it can. You got to start asking about developers and.
I know, but I'm not on the path here.
Yeah. Let's go to 15. You get 5 more. 10's tough.
Where I'm hung up is the kind of maybe open world elements, the no sci-fi. What about hang on.
So for the record, you're getting 5 more questions. I'm giving you 15. The beta. Okay. Again, this is beta. Everybody, we're figuring this out. We haven't done this before.
This is very true. So I've also hung up because you had to think about if I played it or not.
Yeah, don't get hung up about that.
Okay.
Yeah, don't get hung up about that. I know for a fact that you have.
Is this? Oh, is it not a shooter though? Damn.
What's up, Saxy Warrior Paul? Thanks for the resub. Appreciate you. Joe can't look at the chat right now because he cannot see what game is on the screen. So if he pulls up the chat, he's cheating. But Saxy Warrior Paul, I'm sorry, says what's up, Jedediah?
Yo. So is no, it's not. It's not in the time frame.
Got a 10-year gap here. I mean, it's not.
I know. I gotta close that down.
You got
sooner.
A console window and console and a half right there.
Yep. Is it but not a shooter? Is it a Bioshock game?
It is not a Bioshock game.
Okay. Some of the other stuff I thought maybe lined up, and I'm like, I don't like that. Okay.
Right.
Not Bioshock.
Oh, how nice do I want to be?
Well, no, I have to ask you. You have to answer a question.
Yes or no questions. I can't. I know.
It's a video game IP. It's a game I've played. It's between 2010, between That in
I
2020.
don't think I'm wrong about that, about you playing it, but pretty
see,
sure.
see, I don't like it.
I didn't know you from all of 2010 to 2020.
That's true. That's very true. Is it? No, it's not going to narrow it down either. See, I was hoping I would have Tim and JT's help on this.
Oh no,
Maybe not JT. But
yeah,
Tim,
probably not
you know.
JT. You would just go off on a tirade about
If
Thor:
it's
Love and
Call of
Thunder.
Duty, yeah, right. If it's not Call of Duty, good luck. And okay, so at least not a female protagonist.
Yeah, not a female protagonist. That is true.
So this is question 12.
Yes, you have asked 11.
Okay. So did this game come out between, I got to narrow it down a little bit more, 2010 and 2015?
Yes, it did.
Okay, so it helps a little bit.
It did.
Not exclusive. So
And if the game has been re-released, I wouldn't mess around with you. I wouldn't.
I figured
Okay.
we'd go back to the initial
Exactly.
release. All right, folks.
You're going to kick yourself if you don't get it. If you don't get it, you're going to kick yourself. You're going to be upset.
Well, I don't like that at all.
Yeah, you're going to be upset. And don't take that too seriously, as if this is some kind of crazy Josiah game. But
no, I totally get that. Did this game appear on a Nintendo console between 2010 and 2015?
Between 2010 and 2015.
Because I know stuff gets ported and released all the time to it, so that may be.
I actually don't know if this ever got ported to a Nintendo console at all, so let me fact check.
So I'm going to say, based on that, I can't assume, but it's got to be a PlayStation or Xbox game based on what I would have played.
No. Never. The answer is no. The answer to your question is no.
Got it.
So that's 13.
Okay. Is this a game I would beat in 10 hours or less on average?
And you really tested me.
How long to beat.com?
Oh, that's what I'm typing in right now.
If you're even questioning it.
It's on the cusp.
Okay.
My gut would say
10 hours.
My immediate answer would be no. That I would have said no to that. If I didn't have the access of Google, I would have said no to that.
Okay. Yeah, man, this is rough.
One more question.
I have no idea. I mean, something, right? Like I've narrowed down, but I'm trying to think back to like that time frame between 2010 and 2015. Rundown list one more time. Not open world, not Bioshock, obviously. 2010 to 2015. PlayStation or Xbox game, maybe around 10 hours or so. It is a video game IP, not a shooter, not sci-fi-ish. It is single player, not exclusive, of course. Man.
It's it's tough.
This is real tough. Is
you've got good information there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just like off the path because I like there's nothing that triggered like it's funny even when we play like guess the Star Wars character in 30 seconds, there's a point where I'm like, all right, we're
going
here
somewhere. There's a convergence point. Yeah,
I'm not there with this.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if this is sustainable or not.
Right.
Try our best.
Right, for sure.
You've got one more question and then a final guess. Man, and it's like I'm jumping out of my skin because there's like questions I know I'd be asking right now.
Of course.
Not even with knowing the game, just like things I would narrow it down with.
Yeah, I've got to create a path there for sure. Just for the sake of time. No, it's not going to help either. Never mind. Thought I hit an easy one. How about I got nothing, dude. I'm totally lost.
You gotta throw out a developer, you got something. Come on, you gotta be able to narrow it down.
No, everything I go back towards is like, I'm like, all right, nope. We asked that question. Nope, doesn't check off that one.
Oh man.
Yeah, I don't know. How about, dude? Yeah, no, that doesn't help with genre either. Does it? Okay, so we talked about it being, or at least a single player campaign.
Yeah, single player. You said mainly single player focused. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, not a shooter's hanging me up.
Yeah.
Would you consider this a AAA release?
Yes. That's a question that I've been waiting for you to ask.
Not an indie. So that is something.
Yeah, Tank, I know the answer. Yeah, Tank, you do know the answer. It's on the screen, silly. Of course you do.
Yeah, not a good performance by me for sure.
It's a tough game, man. It's tough. 15 questions to guess a video game.
Yeah, I thought I could get there in 10. Not even close in 15. I got nothing, John. I like nothing.
You have to say a video game. I don't care what it is. You have to make a guess. It's part of the rules. You just never know until you try.
Well, I do know based on some of this.
Well, I mean, there's an answer, and you got to give one, and you could give the answer.
Is it Telltale's The Walking Dead?
Oh, it's not Telltale's The Walking Dead. It is not Telltale's The Walking Dead. It is Dishonored. Do you see where I get with it?
Not on my radar at all,
dude.
I was thinking Bethesda, and I'm like, okay, no, because there's open world elements.
Right. Once you went to Bioshock, I'm like,
that's pretty open world.
I'm like, you're sniffing around Bioshock.
So I was like, okay. Originally, I was on the path for like maybe Elder Scrolls or even Fallout.
Right.
I'm like, all right, question if I played it. Okay, there's that.
Yeah.
Dishonored, that's a great first game. I know some questions I would already ask differently to get there.
For sure. I would have gone with like is it a AAA game like early on, just so you're in that thought process the whole way.
Sure.
Like
yep.
I would have maybe even go with like some like is it published by, because publisher could be a huge sort down too, right? Like published by EA, you know?
Yes, it totally could.
Right. So like I'm already got my gears turned in case we do this again. But yeah, it's not easy, man. It's there's so many video games out there.
I felt like I didn't have enough momentum to ask a publisher. I had a few in my head, but I'm like, no, that's gonna eliminate that. So when I was thinking Bethesda, I was only thinking of like those bigger titles. I mean, Dishonored is pretty big, but the tentpole ones.
It was for that era from 2010 to 2015. It's like one of Bethesda's marquee games. It is for sure.
And a game I loved nonetheless.
Right. I was like, shit, did you play Dishonored? But then I remember our conversations about Deathloop, where you're like, oh, I'm a big Dishonored fan. I'm like, oh yeah, you for sure played it. So
I knew that wasn't a totally fair question, but I was like, I'm pretty confident you'll know the answer.
Yeah, for the most part. And again,
all right.
And as we play this, I'm not gonna. My goal is not to get like the most ridiculously obscure game that none of us have heard of. So chances are you've played it.
We'll do that as time has gone on for sure.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
But good stuff. Good to be back here on Busy Sticks. We had a great time talking about all the news we missed, all the games we've been playing, the Steam Deck, lots of good stuff going on in the world of the Geekiverse. John, as we mentioned earlier, if people want to check out some more Geekiverse coverage and they happen to like Star Wars, what's a show that they should go and check out?
So we just started a new reaction and discussion show to the new Star Wars Andor. So we're calling that. Man, why am I blanking on the
yes,
Built on Hope? I'm like, yo, it's Hope. What's the rest of the quote? I came up with the title of the show. It was my idea. Built on Hope. Yes, it was. All right, let's not take credit for another one of my Star Wars ideas. Built on Hope. We just recorded the first episode of that. We reacted to the first 3 episodes of Andor. Spoilers for our impressions. We love the show. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, come hang out there. We're if a Star Wars show is coming out, if there's Marvel content, we're gonna be talking about it. That's what we do.
It's why we exist. It's awesome to be back in the middle of a video game season talking about Star Wars as well. On social media, you can check out John. He is at Disrupted across social media platforms. You can find me. I am Brosaya. If you want to tune in weekly for Geekiverse live content, you can go to the Geekiverse, twitch.tv/the Geekiverse. Find us on all social media platforms. And of course, you can watch the videos back at youtube.com/the Geekiverse. Check out our library there or listen on podcast services around the globe. So again, we appreciate you joining for the chat tonight. So good to be back. For John, I'm Josiah. We'll catch you all next week for a new episode of Andor.